Hello there everyone and welcome to another podcast episode of Feel Good with Emmy. I'm your host Idan, and today I've got Mariah here with us, and we're going to talk a little bit about detoxing, cleansing, eating fruits, eating raw. So for those of you who know, in previous episodes I talked a little bit about an extensive water fast which I did, and then that I came off of it eating fruits. And I did as well before some fruits, and I done at different times in my life just fruits or just bananas. And I have to say it's going to be ripe bananas, otherwise you may get constipated or stomach ache. So ripe bananas, maybe 20, 25, 30, sometimes a bit more. When I managed for 2 weeks at a time, 3 weeks, sometimes I did 3 big watermelons for again 20, 21 days. I done oranges, I done apples fast, so just eating one fruit, monofruit, for a while. And it's the times which I feel the best. My body, my IBS disappears, my skin really, you can tell the difference, my energy level, my recovery, my joint just feel wonderful. It's really something close to me. But I wanted to bring Mariah here because often when people hear just fruits, Idan, are you going to just live on sugar for 2 or 3 or 4 weeks? And it's such a difference between fruit sugars in a raw form to what we have, my processed sugars, white sugar, syrups, etc. So Mara, maybe you can introduce yourself a little bit to us, how you got into it, what's your favorite way of eating, diets, etc. And tell us a little bit that she did study with Dr. Robert Morse, who is a very interesting guy, but he talks a lot about raw fruits and some herbal supplements to detox, etc. And you all make your own research and decision, but raw fruit is really interesting for me, and I like it that he advocates fruits so much. So to you, Mariah.
Okay, so good to be here with you today. I'm actually currently on day 3 of a watermelon juice cleanse. Just thought I'd put that out there. So I've had nothing but, and orange juice. I've had 1 orange juice a day, and then I'm juicing my giant watermelon. And so this is day 3. I'm feeling pretty good. Just had some water this morning. So my name's Mariah. I'm a health and detox coach. I've been working alongside people for about 5 years now. I've been on this journey myself for about 8. So I would describe my diet for the past 8 years as a high fruit, healthy vegan diet. I'm not always 100% raw, but I go through many periods, as you do yourself, as you described, where I'm 100% raw. And usually for me, what raw means is just fruits. So when apples come into season, I'll do an apple cleanse, like I did an entire month on apples where I would make my raw applesauce, I would juice the apples, I would eat the apples whole. You just kind of play around with it. There are no rules. It's just us incorporating this information to the best of our ability. So I've been working alongside people for about 5 years now. And as you said as well, I feel my best when I'm on fruits. I notice it in my skin. I notice it in my body and the way I feel. And if I were living in a different part of the world and not in cold Canada, I would likely, be able to live on fruits for the entire year. But unfortunately, in the cold winters, you don't really feel like eating the fruits from the freezer. So I guess, that's about what I could say here. I'm really into, growing food. I'm about to get a greenhouse up. I feel that health and growing food go hand in hand, because once you kind of get over to the fruit side of things and the food side of things, you realize just how damaged our food system truly is. And so it just kind of becomes natural to start gardening and growing your own food. So That's something that I really focus a lot of time on. Yesterday, I was propagating figs from my fig tree, which has about 9 on it now. I can't wait for them to be ripe. So, yeah.
That's exciting. And just talking about the cold weather and eating raw and staying raw when you're in a cold weather. So, from experience, and the crazy thing is when you eat raw, okay, maybe not a watermelon because it's a high water content fruit, and that seems to be a conductor, so it conducts the cold into you more. But when you eat raw, for example, raw bananas or something more fleshy, jackfruits, which of course it's harder to get in colder climates, and we can talk about the shipping issue or the environmental impact of shipping stuff. So of course there's that as well. But actually you feel warmer, but psychologically, like your body circulation, I think, is much better when you eat raw. But the problem is, it's psychologically, you see a hot cup of tea or a hot porridge or steamed rice or potato, it just makes you feel, and it does warm you up to begin with, but the long term or throughout the day term, I definitely always feel better circulation, and I'm sure you'd feel the same. It's when you eat raw, even on a cold day. But psychologically, is a challenge, and I guess with raw, the flavors are, so when you eat rice or potatoes or lentils, they have no taste in a sense, they're so blunt. But when you bite into a good quality banana or an orange or a fig or a bell pepper, or it depends if you include vegetables or not in raw, but in fruitarianism, but it's just full of flavor. You don't need to add anything to it. There's no salt or spices, nothing is missing, it's just all in there. So also something to notice. But I wondered if you can tell us a little bit, how do you take a person, or if someone comes to you and they want to start eating raw, how do you start with them from eating a regular diet? But also maybe you can tell us a bit some benefits which you think or you found or you research, other than the clear skin, but maybe for people maybe that had some different health challenges. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about those and how to get someone into it, how to ease them into this.
Okay, so when I first began working alongside somebody, I feel that it's very important to begin with where they're at, because we're all along different times along our journey. I mean, I have a lot of people asking, oh, what do you eat in a day? And if I told them, what I eat in a day, it might sound a little bit extreme to them at that time, because what they don't hear is the 8 years prior, where, I started out slowly. I transitioned very slowly, meaning I didn't just jump into, an all fruit diet. I began with, large salads and topped with some lightly steamed veggies. And I ate that as one of my meals every day for a couple of years. So I got to this point very slowly, and that's very important to transition properly, because if you don't, there are a lot of unforeseen health issues that people do run into when the detoxification symptoms become too great. So when somebody first approaches me, I find it very important to meet them where they're at. If they're still on, coffee, for example, there's coffee substitute of dandelion root tea with a little molasses. Or if they're still struggling with cheese, well, then we can find, healthy food swaps. I find healthy food swaps are a really good tool to incorporate. If they can find something healthier to incorporate into their diet that's less harmful than that which they're craving, then that's a win. And so what I really feel people need to understand is just that this is not a diet that you're going to heal your health issues in a month or in 3 months. This is more of a lifestyle choice, and we need to gain a full understanding and gain a lot of patience. That's what this lifestyle has taught me, is patience, because nothing happens overnight. Nature works very slowly. And so if the individual gains a full understanding of what must be done, then it doesn't become a chore, it just becomes a lifestyle. I mean, it becomes a chore to those who are looking to just heal something and then go back to what they were doing. Well, what they were doing is what was building the health issues to begin with, and their body is screaming to change through symptom manifestation. So I mean, that's how I feel, is that you need to transition slowly. The only people that don't transition slowly, or don't have time, are those who are terminally ill. And generally, if I get a case that's that difficult, I will refer them to Dr. Morris's office, because he has a lot more experience and resources and a team of people, right? So but for everybody else, I mean, I would strongly suggest to transition slowly over to a high fruit diet, and that's optimal for healing. Raw, I mean, when I go raw, I, like you said, I'm just mainly fruit, because it's the easiest. You could just grab a watermelon and eat it, right? You just grab some mangoes and eat them. You don't need any spices, seasonings, any preparation. And I'm all about simplicity, and it's a lot easier, and it just makes sense. I mean, but when you say raw, a lot of people will be preparing these beautiful gourmet raw dishes, and they just look so delicious, but they took 8 hours in the dehydrator. And so I mean, I've tried preparing those types of foods, but really I just find that the fruits is just so much simpler and just makes sense. And I do believe that we are fruitarian. Our anatomy and physiology just screams fruitarian, even our teeth and whatnot. And I feel best on fruits, so that's enough for me.
Totally. And also, when you look at this other foods group which people consider to be raw, like salads with dressing that has different nuts and seeds and sometimes even legumes in them and stuff. For me, because I'm sensitive with my digestions and my joints and stuff, it doesn't work. It's not as take me back as cooked foods, but it's in between cooked food and raw. It's not really my stomach tells me this is not for me. Unfortunately, I can feel it working hard and etc. But what would we say to someone who's really worried with the high sugar content, the sweetness of fruits? So of course, I like that you said we need to meet people where they are. So if someone has diabetes or the pre-diabetic, or taking some medication that may interfere with some stuff, then yes, of course, we're gonna be careful. And but in general, for healthy people that eat everything and seem to be all right, but then when you tell them I can eat a whole watermelon for lunch, and they get terrified. Anything we can show on here about this sugar fear?
Sure. Yes. Well, I would like to point out that most people that develop conditions such as diabetes or blood sugar issues, things like this, you need to look at what they were eating to develop those issues. And generally they weren't eating fruits or a high fruit diet. In fact, for most of their life, you'll find, and I've found this by, just speaking with people, that they had very little fruit in their diet. So this fear of suddenly fearing the fruits and the sugar and fruits is a little unwarranted, because they haven't had truly any experience with the fruits. Now, there are doctors such as, Dr. Morris, and there's other doctors that put individuals on high fruit diets, and they're healing these health issues without, much other than just a high fruit diet and raw fruits and vegetables. I've seen this happen as well. So I feel that the reason why fruits got such a bad reputation is more from industry, trying to discredit the one fruit, the one food that can keep us healthy. To lump fruit sugar into one category with all the other sugars, that's completely misleading, because first of all, fruits contain simple sugars, and simple sugars digest they're our proper cellular fuel. They fuel our brain. That's what our brain runs on, actually, is simple sugars. A lot of people believe that it's the fats or the proteins, but we actually need the simple sugars. And what a lot of people don't realize is that they're eating sugar all day long in other forms, such as the complex sugars, which can be, your breads, your pasta, your cakes, beans, like these complex foods. They're actually complex sugars. So we as a species, we crave sugar for a reason. There's a reason why, after many people eat a big meal, they want sugar, right? And then they reach for the chocolate or they reach for the ice cream. But the thing is, the reason why the body's craving these sugars is because they didn't get the proper amount of sugar satiation that the body actually requires, the simple sugars, to feel satiated. So they reach for these artificial sugars afterwards. But when we're craving sugars, that's not really, that's our natural instincts. And it's too bad that we're so misled and uninformed to realize that, oh, well, maybe I should be reaching for an apple or maybe some dates. I used dates to, over the years, to conquer my chocolate addiction. And once, what can be sweeter and more satisfying than eating a date? And so when they say that fruits have too much sugar, this is very misleading, because they're not including the whole fruit. Okay, they're isolating, as they always do, as science tends to do. Is they're just measuring the sugar content of the fruit, but that may be too much sugar if we weren't eating it with all its other counterparts, which is the fats and the protein. Believe it or not, apples contain a bit of fat. They contain a bit of, protein, simple amino acids. And so with all its counterparts, if you're eating the whole fruit, there's no way that nature made a mistake. It's like fruits do not contain too much sugars. And it's been, very well documented that people with type 2 diabetes have been able to heal their condition very easily just by going on a high fruit diet and letting go of, the more complex foods that tend to build our health issues that nobody really wants to hear about. So, yeah, that's what I would say about the sugars.
Amazing. Yeah, no, I really feel that way. I don't have all the science in my head, etc., to back it all up, but it just so naturally. We all want something sweet after we eat, and it's the thing that often we look forward to most, in fact. And as you said, when you eat the fruit, it comes with all the other components, not just a refined, so it's more filling in a sense, but also often when you eat raw fruits, they're full of water, and it's very hydrating form of way to take your water, just because all the enzymes and things are there. There's someone I once heard, it's called H3O, which is the activated form of water, but it just makes sense to me. They're very hydrating. I do feel a lot more, and I struggle to drink water, but in a fruit I just get plenty of liquid. So thank you so much for that, Mara. And then with detox, when you go raw, now not everybody get the concept of detox and on different levels, but when you go raw, things seems to come up. Now maybe some people, the genes, the body mechanism works really well to detoxify the cells and the organ, etc. But for example, I can give from my case, I had a few operations under general anesthetics, and whenever I go high raw or do a water fast, the taste of the anesthetic, the narcotics, the glue and metal come back to my mouth. And I think I didn't know exactly, but a few years ago I done a genetic nutrition profile, and they found that I don't produce or manufacture, or there's some damage in my pathway of glutathione, which is a major antioxidant and clear mechanism that the body has, and my one is impaired or doesn't work at all. I can't remember exactly. So, but when I do the water, I really feel bad things are coming out of me. And just think that we used as a young person, maybe perfume, deodorant, aftershaves, and things like that. And of course, environmental toxins that we're exposed to, and all the bad crap food that I've eaten as a young person. So maybe you can tell a little bit about the detox, what's going on there, how it's coming, why does raw trigger it, or helping it?
Well, we are very accustomed to eating fairly complex foods, meaning anything but fruits and greens, maybe, and some vegetables. But so the body is, always in digestion mode, really, which people don't realize. Digestion is a very complex task. And so the body isn't necessarily doing any high levels of detoxification. For most people can go their entire lives really without initiating any detox in the body, because if your body's constantly digesting, so if you're, eating breakfast, you eat a big meal, and that takes upwards of 3 to 5 hours to digest, at least, depending on what you ate. And then by the time you introduce another meal, the body is still trying to deal with the other meal. So we get fairly backed up over a lifetime, and we don't really realize it. So when people decide that it's time to heal and they begin eating these simpler foods, which digest, first of all, a lot quicker, they're very hydrating. The body suddenly receives a bit of a digestive rest, so to speak. And if you can continue this on long term, over days or weeks or months, once the body starts receiving adequate digestive rest, where it's not always performing this complex task, then the body can begin to release or to eliminate a lot of the stored up wastes that get stored throughout our organs and glands, throughout our lymphatic system, just throughout the entire body. And so when the body begins to release some of these wastes through our eliminative channels, which could be, your skin, you could get it as acne, or, sweating, or through our mouth, through our feces, our urine, through the kidneys, we have all these eliminative channels. And so the body will begin to eliminate a lot of these wastes. And like you said, you were tasting like the metallic, so that could have been stored throughout your body. And so now your body is finally releasing that. And all sorts of, things happen with people depending on what they did throughout their life or what they were exposed to. For myself, I couldn't begin to tell you what I've seen come out of me over the years. I don't know if it's appropriate, but I did get a lot of black stuff out of my lungs. It would be attached to mucus, and I would cough up in the morning because I used to be exposed to a lot of secondhand smoke, and I used to smoke in my past. And so I would begin to get a lot of this black stuff from my lungs, and it would come up, and it felt great to get it out. I would even get these little hard, like calcium kind of pieces, white little pieces out of my throat. And so, I knew things, as you hydrate through the fruits and through the healthy foods, the hydration breaks up, and breaks up, hardened mucus, or breaks up stored up waste in the body, and renders it easier for the body to eliminate. So that's basically what it is just as we hydrate, the more hydrating your diet is, the easier it's going to be for your body to eliminate wastes. And so our diets have become, so dehydrating. If you take a look at somebody's meal, sometimes it's like, what is anything hydrating on your plate? And if you have a salad, well, that's good, but a lot of people are eating a lot of bread, and then a lot of meat and cheese, and none of this is going to hydrate the body or allow for adequate digestive rest so the body can release and heal. So
you put it very well. It's so true that our meals can be so dehydrating, and taking liquid, and the body is 70% water. Why would we not keep on nourishing and building upon that? Yeah, when you have bread or something that absorbs water, then it's probably not ideal for us. Not to talk about dairy, that for me it's like rubber by the time it becomes like cheese, and God knows how you get that ever out of you all.
yeah.
Mariah, thank you so much for this quick chat, and just to introduce some people who maybe haven't heard enough or deal of about raw. Hope to have you back again soon. I'll put links of Mariah in the description below if anyone wants to get in touch and finds out more. She has great posts on Facebook, and I'm sure other social media. Maybe she has even a website, but they're very interesting and I learn from them. So thank you. Is there any last thought you'd like to leave us with, or anything?
Off the top of my head, I just find it amazing, because when I began this journey over 8 years ago, there wasn't a lot of knowledge, as much. I've just seen so many people come on board in the last 8 years, and it's gaining momentum, and people are just kind of, it's not good in the sense that a lot of people are not feeling well, and there's a lot of people that are unwell these days, but at the same time, they're learning how to heal themselves and how to become more self-reliant, and not to, rely on systems that do not serve their best interest. So for that, I'm just so grateful to be here for people if they need it, because, it truly, my motto is heal thyself, because there's nobody that you can go to for a day or two, or to find out what they're eating, to, mimic that, or to heal it, or to find adequate healing. You need to learn the information and then just apply it to the best of your knowledge. None of us are perfect, but as long as what you're doing most times is what's most important, what you do on a day-to-day basis, what you do once in a while, well, the body can withstand those things. It's fine. But so I'm just so grateful that, more people are finding out about the power of fruits and a healthy hydrating diet, and that they're getting on the path towards healing, because a healthier populace means, a more conscious world, which will result in a better future for everyone. So yeah. And thank you so much for having me. It's really nice to meet you. I'm sure we'll talk again in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for talking to us and sharing with us your experience. I'm looking forward to reconnecting in the future. So for a more peaceful world, and connecting through eating in a sustainable, healthy way, we're going to end that podcast. Thank you again.